The banks aren't failing by accident. They're being evacuated, then burned to the ground. And while the headlines keep you distracted, the insiders are already gone. The collapse is already in motion, but here's the twist no one is ready to hear. The people at the top knew it was coming, and they're already gone. While depositors still trust CNBC, still assume the FDIC will step in, still scroll past the warnings. The insiders are gone, quietly, smoothly, before the smoke reached the lobby, and now the buildings are burning. This is not hyperbole. Multiple regional banks have already begun to buckle. Not months from now, not theoretically. Right now. But it's not the fire that should scare you. It's what comes after. Because the powerful didn't try to stop this. They prepared for it. And in this video, we're exposing how the most connected financial players in the world are exiting the system, while the public still believes everything's fine. The first cracks showed in March, but they didn't start with Silicon Valley Bank this time. They started with a shift in behavior. Liquidity velocity began slowing. Interbank trust began fading. And then the asset sales started at scale. Top-level executives at over a dozen U.S. banks began selling off equity positions, transferring ownership into shell entities, and in some cases resigning entirely. Not in panic. In preparation. Then came the vault signals. In the last 60 days alone, more than $12 billion in physical gold was withdrawn from major custodial banks in London and New York, the largest such move since the COVID panic of 2020. Why? Because gold isn't just a hedge. It's a life raft when the ship starts taking on water. Meanwhile, U.S. bank balance sheets are deteriorating quietly. Commercial real estate defaults are accelerating. Consumer credit delinquencies are spiking. And the official narrative? Soft landing. But the insiders? They're building parachutes. Here's the part no one's saying out loud. They're not just pulling cash. They're changing systems. Because while the public still sees traditional banking as the core of the economy, the people who used to run those banks are now flooding into private capital networks, tokenized assets, and blockchain-based settlement systems. This is a quiet migration already underway. Former banking executives are showing up on the boards of fintech infrastructure firms tied to cross-border liquidity corridors, ISO 2022 integration, and real-time settlement tech. They're not just fleeing the old system. They're building its replacement in blockchain corridors, digital vaults, and cross-border rails that don't need banks. And here's what makes it dangerous. They're not making noise because they don't need to. The new system doesn't require public trust, press releases, or regulatory approval. It's being built in silence by the same people who oversaw the collapse. And when it's ready, they'll just switch it on and leave everyone else behind. Because the crash isn't just a result of bad lending or bad bets. It's a controlled demolition. The outdated parts of the system are being allowed to fail, so the new rails can rise in their place. You can already see it in the legal positioning. The Federal Reserve, the IMF, and even the BIS have issued papers in the past 90 days proposing tiered asset networks and hybrid settlement models. That's code for, we're replacing the old plumbing. And the ones helping write that code? Ex-bankers. It gets darker. Some of the very same executives who presided over now failing regional institutions have recently purchased equity in tokenized vault platforms, digital custody networks, and cross-chain liquidity hubs. They knew the fire was coming, and they're already in the fireproof building across the street. So what does this mean for the rest of us? It means we still have a choice, but only for a moment. Because if you can see the pattern now, you're already ahead of 99% of the world. Because by the time this collapse becomes undeniable, by the time another bank goes under, or another round of emergency liquidity is needed, the insiders will be insulated. Again, they'll own the new rails. They'll control the new tokens. They'll already be transacting on-chain, while the public fights for crumbs in the old system. And don't expect a warning. This isn't 2008. This isn't subprime mortgages and bailout press conferences. This is quiet, surgical, and by design. The signs aren't hidden in charts, they're in behavior. When gold moves, when Bitcoin reverses, when debt balloons beyond comprehension, those aren't headlines. They're escape routes. The institutions aren't investing, they're evacuating. The smart money isn't guessing anymore, they're repositioning. The banks may be on fire, but the people who ran them, they're not even in the building. They're already airborne. If you want to stay ahead of the narrative and understand the wealth transfer happening now, subscribe. Wealth Signal brings you the truth before the mainstream dares to say it. And we're just getting started. Let's go deeper. Most people think bank collapses happen all at once. Dramatic, chaotic, and televised. But that's not how the real ones unfold. The real collapses begin invisibly. A single bank limits withdrawals. A CEO steps down quietly. A liquidity facility is extended temporarily. And by the time the public connects the dots, the system has already rerouted itself. This is happening now. The Federal Reserve's Bank Term Funding Program, initially pitched as a temporary buffer during SVB's collapse, has now ballooned to over $175 billion in usage. Quietly. No press conferences. No panic. Why? Because if they told the truth that the collateral quality on thousands of regional bank balance sheets has deteriorated beyond recovery, the entire system would seize. So instead, they print lifeboats, but only for those already on deck. Everyone else is expected to stay calm, trust the process, and wait for the next shoe to drop. And while that shoe drops, the architecture of the new system is being quietly installed. This is where it gets critical. Because ISO 2022 isn't just a messaging upgrade, it's a control shift. It standardizes how financial institutions communicate value, and more importantly, how they route it. And buried in that standard are the keys to on-chain integration, instant settlement, and programmable value flows. Translation? The game is changing. And while the media tells you crypto is dead, the plumbing of the future is being laid with blockchain bricks. Even Ripple's recent legal victories are part of the rollout. While the public saw courtroom drama, insiders saw legal clarity. The green light to begin integration with what a fear of regulatory rollback. It's no coincidence that Ripple announced partnerships in Dubai, Switzerland, and Singapore within weeks of that decision. And who's joining those projects? Former JP Morgan executives, ex-regulators, compliance chiefs from global banks. They're not betting on a rebound. They're building the new rails. So let's be absolutely clear about what's happening. The banking system as you know it, regional branches, paper transfers, correspondent wires, is being phased out. The fire is real, but it's not accidental. It's engineered obsolescence. The people who built the old world are already flying first class into the new one. What you do next determines whether you're part of that transition or part of the wreckage left behind. Don't wait. Don't trust the silence. Watch the exits. Follow the lifeboats. And start learning the systems being put in place right now. Once the fire spreads past the lobby, it'll be too late. If you want to see the hidden angles before the mainstream catches up, subscribe now